last week, despite the Phillies game going on, I'm sure that lots of people signed up to watch the Eagles play the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's bring on Eagles Insider Dave Spadaro to talk about what's going on with the 8-0 Philadelphia Eagles. Dave, thanks for a few minutes before the Monday night game this week.
Guys, how's everything going? Long time no talk.
How can we not be good? Well, Jeff doesn't care because he's
Yeah,
not an Eagles fan.
but Dave, Dave, did you have any idea, honestly, that you were going to come on the air after 8 games and they would be 8-0?
Is he going to say no? Come on,
No, he might.
Yeah, I mean, it never happened in franchise history until now. So, I didn't really think in those terms. I thought it would be a good football team. I obviously liked what Howie did in the off season. We watched in training camp. We saw a good team. But 8-0, I don't think anybody goes into a season thinking they're going to start out 8-0. But glad it's here, and this football team's got more to accomplish.
Dave, I remember you came on here right after Nick Sirianni was hired and after that press conference, and you told us these guys are going to run through a wall for this guy. Looking back at that and seeing what he's done since, this was clearly the right coach for the job. What has it been like covering him?
Yeah, no, I just found that the criticism of Nick after that opening press conference was ridiculous. So, fortunately, people got a chance to get to know Nick and see how he operates, and he went through some duress last year and overcame that. And I don't think you could be anything but impressed with the way he coached this football team to the playoffs last season. And then, obviously, the infusion of talent, bringing back an intact offense, adding A.J. Brown, rebuilding the defense, emphasizes just how in sync Howie and the coaching staff are. And, by the way, how good this coaching staff is, because they've taken some players who have arrived late on the scene and integrated them very nicely into the defense. And we see just how good this defense has been through 8 games.
With all the players that have been integrated, let's talk the growth of Jalen Hurts and how good his decision-making's been for a minute. The Eagles are converting 42% on third down dropbacks this year. They're 4th in the NFL. Very few turnovers in offense. Can you talk about what you're seeing, the growth of him as a quarterback leading this organization?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll start with this. If you were taking a language, trying to learn a language, and you only had 1 year in each language, pardon me, would you be able to learn that language effectively? No, is the answer. You'd be taking French 1 year and Italian the next year and German the year after that. Well, Jalen, for the first time since high school, is in his 2nd season with the same offensive system in place. So he's 2 years deep into an offense for the first time since high school, and it's made a huge difference. And he's more confident. He's more his mechanics are better. He's making better decisions. He's seeing the field better. All the things we heard last year. He can't throw the ball down the field. He can't throw the ball into the middle of the field. He can't roll left and throw. All of those criticisms have been dispelled, and it helps that you've got a great offensive line. It helps that you've got a good running game. You've got fantastic weapons around you. But Jalen has become a pocket quarterback. He can run certainly when he wants to, but you cannot win unless you are a pocket quarterback. And Jalen Hurts has reached that point. He's defeating the blitz. He's recognizing everything that defenses are offering to him. Defenses have tried to do everything to stop Jalen and his offense. And the Eagles have averaged 28 points a game, and they probably haven't played their best football yet.
See, to me, that's the most surprising part and the most impressive part about Hurts. It's not what they put around him. That obviously helps him. It's what you talked about with regard to his mechanics, and it's about staying in the system and learning the system. How impressive has it been to watch his growth in that regard?
Yeah, for sure. Well, one thing I will say about Jalen, he is very critical of himself, and when you are that critical of yourself, and you're not sensitive to hard coaching, and you're not sensitive to constructive criticism, you have a chance to really improve. And that's what he's done. And he certainly takes coaching well. Brian Johnson, I think we've all found out, is a really good quarterbacks coach. Nick's offense is very fine. Shane Steichen deserves a lot of credit. And Jalen deserves a ton of credit for putting in the work, for recognizing the areas in his game that need to be improved, and he's gone out and worked on those areas. And there is still room for improvement, and he knows that. And I think that's what makes him such a great prospect, and at this moment, one of the leading MVP candidates in the NFL.
You know, you
But this is not a finished product here. This is a man who's been starting for 2 seasons. There is better football inside Jalen Hurts.
you talk about the weapons that he has now. The Eagles have 16 rushing touchdowns. That matches the most by any team through 8 games since the '04 Chiefs. It's their most rushing touchdowns after 8 games since 1949. Talk about the commitment to the run with this team and how well Miles Sanders has played after getting oddly no rushing touchdowns last year for all he's done,
Yeah.
finding the end zone a lot this season.
Yeah, it's definitely a difference. I mean, look, Nick, we knew from his track record when he came from Indianapolis that running the football was important. And when you have this offensive line, why wouldn't you run the football? And I really give Nick a lot of credit. Last year, at about this time, he turned the offense over to Shane Steichen, and with that, a bit of a shift in the philosophy. And the Eagles really committed to running the football. And we see what they did. They led the league in rushing. They've come into this year intact offensively, adding A.J. Brown, understanding what a crazy good weapon he is, but still making sure that, like, there have been games, Arizona, Dallas, where the passing game just wasn't as consistent, as effective, and they turned to the run. And they won the game in the fourth quarter with a field goal drive against the Cardinals, and then against Dallas, a late game drive to score a touchdown and put that game away. So, yeah, I mean, look, and Miles has been really secure with the football. He and I have talked a lot, and he spoke to me about his interest, his need, his emphasis on gaining more focus and applying that on a daily basis. And I don't know whether that means, he's growing up or he's approaching things differently or, he's kind of slowing down and just controlling the things that he can control. But whatever it is, you don't see the dancing. The ball, no fumbles, knock on wood, to date. So it is a different Miles Sanders. I think we'd all agree with that. And he's been terrific, averaging 5 yards a carry, 6 touchdowns, great in the red zone. The Eagles didn't go out and add a big running back at the trade deadline because they trust in Miles and the crew around him. And I mean, we all knew that Miles was a talented player, but the two things holding him back were injuries, and so he stayed healthy, thankfully. And then after that, ball security, and he's been excellent. In fact, flawless through 8 games there.
Let's talk about the defense for a second. You wrote about Robert Quinn when the Eagles traded for him that he could help the Eagles in many ways and cited his relentless motor, his perfect fit in the locker room, and his depth to a pass rushing group. What have you seen out of Robert Quinn since he's been here, and has he lived up, at least in this short time, to all of those things?
No, not yet. Not yet. Came in 3 days before the Steelers game, and then a short week to prepare for Houston. So very limited sample size of Robert Quinn. And I really think that his presence will pay off down the line. We'll see him later in the season in those moments, in the postseason, hopefully. So I think Robert Quinn's value will really be determined moving forward. But to this point, I mean, he really hasn't played a lot. He played 20 snaps in the first game, maybe 8 in the second game. So, no, it's not been – he hasn't been used yet. He will be used. It's a great veteran addition, a proven player. He's got a little bit more integration into the defense and what the Eagles want him to do. So I feel like, when the floodgates open for Robert Quinn, that's just going to be another weapon to go along with Reddick and now Hargrave and Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and Josh Sweat, etc., that the Eagles can unleash to opposing passing games. And that's going to be – and look, Robert Quinn may make 5 plays between now and the end of the season. But I'm really sure that he will be there, and those plays will be huge plays. And when the playoffs come, he'll be a valuable player.
One of the things we've just gone through is this Phillies run where the locker room was so important. The way that these guys have bonded were so important. Are you seeing some of those same characteristics with this Eagles team?
Oh yeah, I mean they're very together. And just a little anecdote, like Houston, game's over, media's in the locker room, and you are rushing out of there. I mean, our arrival time back to Philly was scheduled to be 5 o'clock, and the players were delayed. They didn't. They usually do interviews and then go get showered, or they get showered and then do interviews. There were a large handful of players just watching Phillies in the playoffs, and I mean, like just so like it all was the synergy in the city. The sports synergy was just amazing, and I've been through many great runs for the Eagles. 5 NFC Championship games, 1 Super Bowl appearance in the Andy Reid eras. Before that, Buddy Ryan turning the season around, and Ray Rhodes having a little taste, and Rich Kotite winning a playoff game, and 2017 Super Bowl team, etc. So a lot of wins, and you know it, and the Eagles knew coming into the season that they had a chance to be a good team. They know now that they have a chance to be a really special team, and you see the players, the leaders, really making sure that everything's buttoned up. Now, I still contend, guys, that you need to go through some adversity to really, really learn about leadership. So there's going to be bumps along the way. The Eagles are going to have some very tough games. They're going to lose some games, and then we'll find out about the leadership for sure. But right now it's humming, and nobody's taking anything for granted. And I think that it'll be a very, very tough game on Monday night against Washington, but I feel like the Eagles are going to play a good game.
I did want to ask you about potential adversity. They do have some tough running backs coming up in their matchups, and if you look for, obviously an 8-0 team, you don't really look for weaknesses that much. But if you look at any areas that have been in question a little bit, it's they've allowed 29th in yards per carry. Some people have asked questions about the tackling. How's the team feel about kind of cleaning up some of those things that they've seen along this run that they may think might cost them as they get into more high leverage situations?
Yeah, surely, you can't be perfect on everything, and they recognize that, and they're certainly working on being better, more consistent against the run. Something that Jonathan Gannon told me prior to the bye week, prior to the Steelers game, that they had given up too many explosive run plays. And so, it's not just all of a sudden Dameon Pierce has a big game and Houston runs for 160-plus yards, and oh boy, we got to worry about this. Well, in that game, Houston scored 3 points in the second half and 17 overall, and sometimes you got to give up something. So having Jordan Davis out, hopefully he gets back at a reasonable time. He'll help. But I would imagine, guys, on Monday night, the front seven receiving as much criticism as it has and questions as it has about the tackling and the run defense, I would imagine a pretty inspired effort against the run is forthcoming. So, and I'll go on record as saying that. And if the Eagles don't play well against the run, then shame on me. But I would expect them to be much better against the run on Monday than they were last week. And in the big picture, I think this defense is really well equipped against the run, against the pass. I think this defense is a top 10 defense, and I really don't. If the only weapon coming to town for the Tennessee Titans is Derrick Henry, well, okay, I know I'm going to give up some to Derrick Henry, but if I'm only giving up 14 points a game, 15, 16 points a game, that's pretty darn good.
And I mean, look, we can look at the tackling side of it, but that front seven, last year they managed just 29 sacks all season. Through 8 games, they've already got 26 sacks, good for 5th in the league. So they're getting pressure, they're getting sacks, they're getting interceptions. And look, the tackling will hopefully come along. Dave, we know it's going to be a crazy atmosphere down there on Monday night. Look forward to following your coverage, and always appreciate you giving us a few minutes to walk through it all.
Hey, my pleasure. Salute to service night on Monday. Should be very emotional, dramatic pageant, and more commitment to the servicemen and women of our country. And guys, thank you for having me. Have a great weekend. Continue to enjoy the season.
Have a great one.
Good times, man.
Thanks
great
for
times. Really good football team here.
Thanks for what you guys are doing to recognize veterans as well. Have a great one, Dave. Take it easy.
All right, guys. Thanks. Take care.